being the parent of like a little kid, I think has gotten a lot harder than when I was raising my daughter. She's 23 now, and man, I got to tell you, the decisions you have to make and the things you have to monitor and protect your children from today has gotten a lot harder. What do you give them that's still entertaining, but also aligns with your values? You know, we've talked about Way FM being a product that you don't have to filter, but like if you got Netflix in your house, you got to have the filter on.
And even Disney Plus, you have the same problem.
Oh, well, I'll tell you, Disney Plus has been disappointing to me as a parent, and some of the things they've chose to put on there, and like, you got to watch it, you know? And that's why it's so nice to have something. If I was raising little kids, I would do PureFlix subscription, man, because you've got content on there that you're not having to filter out. And as a parent, I mean, I know we want to be involved in our kids' lives, but sometimes you need to park them in front of the TV and take 10 minutes to yourself. That's why PureFlix is a great option for families. You got family stuff, obviously. They're even dabbling in some drama. Yes, and PureFlix originals. Like, I saw the movie on their Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters, and I have to tell you,
you cried.
I did. There was 3 times. Not once, 3 times.
I did.
I wept, and I was moved, and it was a great movie. And I think if I was raising my child now, I think PureFlix would be definitely a part of my family's entertainment plan.
So if you'd like to try PureFlix, text PURE, that's PURE, to 91979 to get your 1-week free trial. Faith and family entertainment with no ads on your favorite devices.
Welcome to the Wally Show Aftercast. All those things we did not get to during the course of the show today. I've got something big with Hailey Bieber that I want to get to, believe it or not. And I don't even want to waste any time. I just want to jump right into this. Yeah, we're going in. So Hailey Bieber did a TikTok post about her recent lip routine, which, so she's going to show you how to do that outlining thing and the way she does her lips. Who could possibly have a problem with that? You know, like, great, you're doing makeup tutorials.
Yeah.
Good job. Good on you. Well, in this ridiculously overwoke society that we live in, she is being accused of cultural appropriation among social media influencers. Do you see it? Yeah. She says, they did the brownie glazed lip, and that was her thing. And so some TikTok users have accused her of basically appropriating this makeup routine, which was thought to be a popular style from the 80s and 90s among women of color, particularly Black and Latino women. So they're taking something that is a makeup style that everybody, shares and looks at, and hey, this is great. We do this all the time. We do it with clothes. We do it with fashion. We follow trends. And so she's doing this, bringing it back or doing this, and they're saying that you are stealing someone's culture. You're culturally appropriating this. How messed up is that?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I heard a little bit about this.
Okay, is there something I'm missing?
I think what I heard from some women of color was that if a African-American woman did this or a Latino woman got on and showed people how to do this kind of lip routine or whatever, it wouldn't have gotten near as much coverage because it's like, oh, yeah, sure, whatever. But it's because of a white woman doing it, Hailey Bieber, then it gets more like, oh, this is a brand new thing, when in reality, in the Latino and in the African-American world, it's not a new thing. It's something that they do all the time. Okay, so it was something that was exposed to a new audience that they think is new. That happens all the time. Look at music. Music's like, hey, look, it's the same 4 chords, but they're like, this is brand new. Or kids liking Led Zeppelin for the first time because they heard it, but it had been popular years ago, but now somebody else introduced them to it. Like, I am so hair trigger sensitive to this whole idea of being so woke that you are a joke, and that you're taking things that really damage racial relations more so when you do this kind of nonsense. It does create a divide. Jillian Hernandez, she's the professor at University of Florida for gender sexualities and women's studies research. I know. They're paying people for this nonsense.
I've been in those types of classes, though.
Oh, I would lose my mind.
Yeah, you would have.
Even back then when I was calmer, I would have lost my mind. But she says African-American Latino women get denigrated for the ways that they present their body and the ways that they wear their hair. People use words like ghetto or ratchet. And I don't think that this counts for that, like this is like a lip routine. And so she's basically saying, well, Hailey Bieber does it, so now it's celebrated and it's fine. But black women are considered ratchet because of that. I don't know that that's always the case, like anything, there are extremes and stereotypes, and so this one it feels weird. She went on to describe the co-opting of trends as an act of stylistic or aesthetic gentrification, which she said can be traced all the way back to the 19th century when Cubist artist Pablo Picasso, who was Spanish, took inspiration from traditional African art. Okay, so he went to Africa, was inspired, and then started creating art. That happens in food. Like, how many people go, you want to be a chef, and they go, I went to France and I studied for a year or whatever because I wanted to learn something that I didn't know or something I liked and aspired to but didn't know how to do. Like, we should be able to share each other's cultures without being called a racist. I mean, we should be able to do that. We should be able to share each other's, the best that each part of our society has to offer and enjoy it.
I don't think anyone is calling Hailey Bieber a racist. I think they're trying to just bring to light the difference between what white privilege,
what is that?
White privilege, and I don't know.
But what is that? It's racist. What is cultural appropriation? Cultural appropriation is a new, subtle word for calling somebody basically a racist or accusing you of not being woke, and that you don't care about the black agenda or the black experience, and it's ridiculous.
It is a way, I think in some ways, it's a strategy that people use to, in essence, sometimes keep people in the box that they're supposed to be in.
Right.
And I feel like that's not what a united world's approach should be.
What should let's say, for instance, that the African American women saw what Hailey Bieber posted
Sorry. Go ahead.
And they were disappointed in it. How could they have, in your eyes or mine, how could they have handled it better?
Because the problem is, it's not the African American women in general that are doing this. It's a few idiots on TikTok that then stir the pot because of this. And it's like this woman from gender studies and blah, blah, blah. She's trying to give it legitimacy and credibility when it's not.
Okay, so those few idiots that you call them.
Thank you.
How could they handle,
shut up. That's what they should do. They should shut their mouths. Absolutely. 100% be quiet. Stop making the problem worse. Stop creating divides that are not there. Spend your time going after real racial issues. Go for it. When people are being treated unfairly and people aren't getting jobs, people are being, discriminated against, go after that 1,000,000,000% and make this world better. But don't weaken that stuff by this weak stuff, So there's my take. Yeah, you should shut up. I know that's not what you're looking for.
I mean, it was what I expected.
but I mean, I'm representing a sect of our society that has had it, that has had it with nonsense because it's only going to make things worse. You look at Roe versus Wade. I will contend this till the day I die that Roe versus Wade overturning and some of these other things and how extreme that went is because of how far the left has gone to be ridiculous. So like in physics, equal and opposite reaction. That's what's happening. So when the farther the left goes with the lunacy that they purport, the right then doesn't just make a smaller shift. The right makes an equal and opposite reactive shift, which is not good either. That's just as bad. They're both bad, because we've made everything an issue and we can't just go, hey, nice lip liner. We got to wake up every day and be pissed off about something.
I know. And social media has given that up.
Yeah. Now, as far as a constructive way to handle it, I
thought we covered that with shut up.
Yeah.
No, that's not constructive way.
That's
my constructive way. I'm trying to answer your question seriously about constructive way because nothing sounds good. It's like, well, you need to do the work, educate yourself, because that all sounds like, like stereotypical and horrible too. if somebody had a problem with it, I mean, I guess they reach out to her personally. Would be your biblical step. Honestly, is your if you want to look at things biblically, your first step is to go to that person that you think is transgressed against you. Try to settle it that way, and if that doesn't work, then you bring in someone from the outside.
Who's to say they didn't?
There's no way.
But it's also
There's
probably
zero way this internet troll and all these internet people are going to somebody personally. They just want to have an opinion about it.
Yeah, but it's also probably relatively impossible for them to, have one-on-one communication with Hailey Bieber, given Hailey Bieber's popularity,
and that's
status.
why they use social media.
So they'll use social media
to get attention, to further their own agenda. And look at me, I got my 15 minutes. Well, congratulations, you set racial relations backwards. And I know that's probably not what their goal is, but guess what? That's what you're doing. You are sending us into a further divide racially with all of the woke as a joke nonsense.
So then, what can we do to help
silence these people?
Okay.
Just kidding. We need to take away the right to free speech.
If you go around in the circle enough, Wally doesn't end up looking great in some way.
That was the first response. Let's try for a second.
You in politics, you should never be in politics.
Oh, I would love to be in politics. Oh, and I
Shut up.
The problem with me is I would be super direct like that, and some people would love it, and a lot of people would hate it.
I feel like Matt Walsh is like that.
Oh, I love
very
Matt Walsh.
Direct.
Yeah, I actually like him. You got me started on him because Nicole got you started on him, and I actually really like his stuff.
He says things, and I'm like,
yeah.
Like a lot of what he says, I have the same reaction when you say stuff.
Well, it's funny too because he'll say things. As not, he's a believer, but he'll say things not in a Christian format that are more Christian than the things we can say here because we've got so many people above us that anytime you say anything that has an opinion and a really strong side, well, we don't want to upset the other half of our listeners, and stuff like that. That's why the radio is so tough to do these days and why the podcast is amazing.
I didn't even think about talking about this, but this led me to think of this. So yesterday I saw the announcement that Maverick City Music made about Dante Bowe.
Yeah.
About that they didn't say what had happened, but they did say that what he was doing wasn't agreeing with their core values.
Right.
And so they were putting a pause on their relationship with him. And of course, I go to Twitter because I'm like,
you were
what
all
is going
about
on?
It in
I
that
want
meeting.
the tea. I want the tea.
I know.
I couldn't find the tea.
Yeah.
There are a couple of hypotheses, or rumors, if you will. I don't know if any of those are true, but I will say there were a lot of tweets as well saying, how dare Maverick City Music proclaim grace, mercy, and freedom, right. And then one person doesn't agree with you, and then they are ostracized.
See, that's
and
crazy.
So, but that's what I'm saying when you say about there's things we can't say
right.
On the air that Matt
right.
Walsh can say. It's because we're so the world has an idea of what Christians are. It's what's the word when you put somebody in a box and it's not right?
Pigeonholed?
No, it's like when they say women are bad drivers.
Stereotype.
Like a stereotype.
Right.
There's a stereotype of what a Christian is,
sure.
and that is a hate monger, the one that tells you what you're doing wrong. They judge you and they tell you, I'm perfect, but you're doing it wrong and you're going to burn in hell for
right.
it. That's what the idea that everyone has of a Christian. And so when they go out there and they try to say the opposite, which is what Maverick City's music does.
Right.
And then they say, we're actually going to step away from this person that did something we don't agree with. Then it kind of goes back to everyone calling them hypocrites.
But that's the problem, though, because everybody's looking at this from you walked away from him. They also said we're not walking away from him as a friend and a brother in Christ. Mm-hmm. They are saying that he's not going to be part of their music. Okay, let's say a pastor has a moral failure. Again, I'm not saying that's what Dante did. I don't know. Pastor has a moral failure. You can counsel him, you can bring him along, you can love him, you can not, excommunicate him from the world, but you don't have him in the pulpit. He's not the pastor anymore. He has to step out of that role. God gives us leadership roles. And if we mess those up, we have to be taken out of those roles. If I mess up here, I should be taken out of this role.
Yeah, I just don't know what the winning solution would have been. So some people were like, well, how dare you you don't want to call attention to it, but you are by posting about it. And now you're making us all wonder what he did.
That's the problem.
There is no win, because if they didn't address it, then people would have been like, why didn't you address it?
Look at Hillsong Church. That's what happened. They swept stuff under the rug, and then they got caught.
If you don't address it, then they're like, what, you think he's not worthy of you addressing something? Right. So there is no win in it. And also, too, when you post things online, I was having this conversation with a friend of mine. I actually got this from John Acuff. I've signed up for like his little text that he'll send out every now and then.
Yeah, I get that too.
And one of them, he said, communication is kindness. And social media leaves room for miscommunication. Yeah. When you post things and it doesn't give the full story, which is yours to tell.
Right.
People will automatically assume the worst.
Absolutely.
That's human nature.
Absolutely.
And so when you don't put out a whole book or a chapter on what went down at 10:20 a.m. on August 3rd, people are led to believe, well, they didn't have a one-on-one with him, or, they just ostracized him, and now he's probably sitting at home crying. Like, they assume all the worst. And so then they'll go straight to Twitter, straight to Instagram and say, how dare you? It's easy to judge is what I'm saying.
That's my point.
It's easy to judge and not assume that they handled it in a proper manner.
And that's kind of been my point, is the internet is where people go and they just rant about everything. Yes. And, like this Hailey Bieber situation, that's where they feel they have a voice. And with the Dante Bowe thing, honestly, it could have been something super embarrassing for him. So for them saying, hey, we're just saying that we're not lining up, he's taking a break, we're parting ways with him professionally, not personally, that is respectful. Because maybe it's, I heard he just got married and stuff too, right?
Yeah, I think he's been married for 5 years maybe.
What if it's something that, would affect his marriage,
Yeah.
And so, and humiliate his poor wife or something like that. So it's like, in them trying to do the right thing and saying we can't have people in leadership that don't align with our core values, that they're still getting flamed for that, which just goes to show you, no matter what you do, you're going to get crucified on the air or online if you take a stance on anything. Yeah. And that's all these trolls that are, wanting their 15 minutes or just so desperately need to be heard. And the problem is we give them credibility. Most things die down. Most things, if you just let it go, it'll chill because there'll be another scandal tomorrow. Or if it's not chilling, start another scandal for somebody else, and then they move on. Right. And I really hope and pray that Hailey Bieber does not make an apology. I really hope that she doesn't back down and cave to this nonsense.
One more thing I will say, and this is one that there's a documentary on Netflix. I saw the trailer for it. I haven't watched it yet, and I forget what it's called. But it's talking about how, and I know we've talked about this in the news, that Facebook or Twitter, maybe both, Instagram, not sure, but they focus on things that you want to see. And so you're bombarded with posts from people or advertisements from people that agree with your way of looking at things.
Yes.
And so then you don't see the opposing side. Yes. And so I really want to watch that. But all that to say...
So I think it's called The Social Contract, something like that. Yeah, I've seen it.
But all that to say, you can find what you're looking for. Right. And social media is more than happy to give you support on those things. Whether you're one of those people, was the white kid that went in and shot a bunch of African American people in their church, and they noticed that on his Facebook, everything that he was commenting on was all about how the white race is better. Right. Like he and then that gave him the idea that he's not alone, that there are so many people out here that agree with him, and that this is this huge army or whatever. Well, yeah. And the opposite can be said for the African American people that feel like all white people are against them. Yeah. And that's not the truth. And so I think the same can be said for the whole Dante Bowe situation. If you are thinking something bad happened, you can go straight to Twitter and you can find it for sure. If you think something good happened, then they handled it. It's going to be harder to find, but you can find it.
I think that, like with the Dante Bowe thing, I remember even probably 4 years ago, when this story would have broke, I would have been like, oh, wow, we have to talk about this on the air. And what do we do with this, kind of thing. And I purposely didn't go any down this path on the air because I'm like I don't have anything to add to this right now that has any value. A, I don't have any real information.
Yes.
And B, what do I say about it that can add value to somebody else's life in learning from the situation?
There's no way you can do that without making assumptions.
But that's what
and
people,
you can't do that.
I think that's what people do a lot of times in certain situations is they create their opinion about whatever's happening based on the snippet of information they've seen without knowing any of the details.
Yeah, they don't want to know all the details.
No, because
they
that
just
doesn't help
want
their argument.
Yeah, they want to be, like you said, angry about something.
Right. And so that's why I purposely stayed out of it because I didn't have a twist to do a topic on the radio with it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have anything constructive to do with it. And so I'm like, what am I going to do? All I'm going to do is
bring more awareness to it.
Yeah, of a problem that 99% of our audience probably doesn't even know who Dante Bowe is. Honestly, full disclosure, I had somebody ask me to do something to put them in contact with Dante Bowe for an African school for boys, and they love his music, and they wanted to, have a video message from him to encourage them to keep studying. Okay, so I had to look up who Dante Bowe was. I had no idea. And then it's like, oh, Maverick City Music. And then literally 2 weeks later, all this stuff blows up. But I had no idea who Dante was. And I want to say I've even interviewed him once at the...
was he part of the
Chosen?
Chosen?
When I was at the Chosen. This was before Maverick...
I don't know if he was there.
I don't know if he was one of them or not.
You did. Because
they were just on the cusp of breaking, and I was not aware of them yet. And I was having to take a bunch of different people that were going to be in this special. And they're like, do you want to take Maverick City Music? And I'm like, sure, I'll do something with them. And they were super kind, but I don't remember who I talked to, honestly, because they hadn't made it yet. And so I was just taking the interview to do my job, in essence.
Yeah, we've still only ever played one of their songs on radio.
Yeah, we're not playing Gyra.
But all their stuff is so good.
Yeah. Gyra's a really good song. I like that song.
Promises was the good one.
Yeah.
It was the one we did play.
Yeah, that
Promises
was the best
is
one.
the one we did play.
Yeah, Gyra's good though too. Gyra,
good,
the verse is a little weird. It takes a little bit to go through it, but man, when you get to the hook's really great.
It's like a song that's really well built for church.
Yeah,
but is long and has a bit of a non-radio feel to it.
Yeah,
still a great song.
Well, I feel like we've done some good work here today, and we've solved all the problems.
We've solved it.
Pretty nice. So, Lady Rock, do you got any birthdays?
I don't.
Oh, well, then solved every problem known to mankind, and that's going to do it for your Aftercast, and thanks for being a potty.